All right. Thank you all for coming tonight. Really happy to have everyone here. Thank you all for taking out your time this evening to be here. My name is Ramy Khalil. I was a campaign manager for Seattle's City Councilmember Kshama Sawant last year. And I'm a member of Socialist Alternative, and I'll be the moderator of this event tonight. We are here today because there's been a string of police killings of African American men all across the country. There was Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, Eric Garner in Staten Island, New York. There was John Crawford in Ohio. There was Tamir Rice in Ohio. Here in Seattle, we had a young African American woman named Coco, who goes by the name Coco, who was punched by a police officer, and it was caught on SPD video. And everyone should watch that video and share that video to see the police brutality that's not only happening across the country, but right here in our own town. Despite all these police killings and plenty of evidence suggesting that there's enough evidence to take these police officers to trial and indict these officers just to have a trial, just to have a discussion about whether something went wrong, none of these police officers recently have been indicted. These people have been let off the hook, showing once again that African Americans experience a different set of laws in this country than the rest of us. But that's nothing unusual. This happens all the time. In fact, there's a report that shows that an African American man is killed in this country every 28 hours, either by a policeman, a police officer, or a vigilante like George Zimmerman, who killed Trayvon Martin a couple years ago. What is unusual, the reason why this is getting so much attention and that there's a nationwide discussion about race and police brutality, is that the young people of Ferguson and the young people of African American young people all across the country have stood up and said enough is enough. And that is why people are talking about this and rising up all across the country. So I'm not going to speak too long because we have a lot of speakers here tonight, and I'm really thankful for the people who've stepped up to speak with us tonight. I also want to extend a special thank you to Africatown, who has generously allowed us to use their space here tonight. So the format is going to be, I'll just get up and introduce each speaker one by one, and then I'm going to have one announcement, and then we'll open it up for discussion. So we have limited space, so the speakers are just going to have to stand up here. We didn't have space for a table with 8 chairs because we have about 8 speakers. And I'm sorry about the tight space here. We're thankful to Africatown that they gave us what space they could give us on short notice. We called this meeting because we knew people were interested in discussing these issues, and we wanted to have a meeting, and this was the best place we could find under the circumstances, but I apologize for the tight space. So I would ask that people do not speak until I call on you one by one, and keep your comments brief so that everyone can get an equal chance to speak. But don't speak until you raise your hand and I call on you. And without further ado, I will introduce our first speaker, the Executive Director of Africatown, Malachi. Please join me in welcoming him.
Just to correct, I'm actually just manager of facilities and operations.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for coming. And if by chance I say something this evening that would garner your applause, I ask that you just hold it until we finish so that we can continuously move throughout this and get all the information disseminated. I moved to Seattle 5 years ago from Missouri, where I was a lifelong resident. I have a few contentious points with the opening, one of which being the fact that we're here because of a recent string of killings. We're here because of over 400 years of killings that have gone unanswered and have not been able to stand in the light of justice. Here at Africatown Center for Education and Innovation, we have picked up and carried the mantle of trying to reach into what we perceive as one of the greater problems in our society, and one of which that actually allows this situation to continue, and that is one of education. Some people don't really tie education and brutality together, or education and inequality together, but rarely have you seen an underclass group of people with more money being suppressed by ignorant people with less money in a society such as this. Just think about that. The youth that are experiencing the interactions with the police force, all had one thing in common. They were disenfranchised at some point from the educational system. We as African Americans, and as all Americans, one of the first things that we see in our interaction with society is that we are not afforded a good education. There's a second-rate education that begins the downward spiral into the criminal justice system, into the prisons, and into the hands of the police, and finally the coroners of America. I ask you all to just delve deeper into this problem and into this phenomenon and really research it yourselves. The educational system since our inception into this country has been geared and slanted against us to keep us from obtaining the proper education, to thereby keep us from the economic and educational success that would lead us to the ability to create better lives for ourselves and beautify our communities and create and build the society together that we have been told that we would be able to do alongside our brothers and sisters of all races, creeds, and colors. Right now, for whatever reason, the media has elected to once again shine its spotlight on the deaths, which I will assert again are not recent. There is no upswing of them. In fact, they're on a downswing. But the fact of the matter is these are continuous occurrences throughout the cities of America. And as I said, I come from Missouri. I went to school several miles away from Ferguson, where Mr. Brown was killed. And I witnessed and had to endure the brutality of not just the police, but the school system and everything else that was geared and slanted against people that were just trying to survive. So, with that being said, I won't belabor the issue. Education is key to addressing this problem. Education is the key to the economics, and as we've already said, the economic situation is one of the premises of racism. So if we want to undo racism, like capitalism, or socialism, or communism, or any of the isms, we're going to have to deal with the economic factor that is at the heart of them all. All of them are resource-controlling mechanisms that are placed in society that allocate resources specifically to one group and preclude others. So let us deal now with the economic foundation of racism, the educational foundation and consequences that result in the brutality that we are suffering. Here at Africatown, we need your assistance. We need your help. We're actually in the business of trying to reinvigorate the educational process to include those that have been shut out, sent away, put in the public education classroom and sent through the pipeline to the penitentiary. It's imperative that you support us and help us today, tomorrow, and the next day. Not just with your protest, your voice, your banner, your flag, and anything else, but with your hands, your minds, your speech, your financial resources, and whatever else you have. Because if this is an issue that you are truly interested in, this is the foundational point that you need to become involved and start the change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naka. So our next speaker tonight is a, yeah, I'll be doing that later on. Okay. Our next speaker tonight is a local leader of the King County and Seattle NAACP. Please join me in welcoming Sharice.
Give her the mic. sounds like do nothing, Dan is idle again.
I say that because earlier this summer, June 22nd, one of ours was assaulted by a police officer. She was assaulted by a man, which is a double negative because not only was her life put at risk by a man who is able to carry a gun and a badge, but it was done by a man who's supposed to be on this planet to protect us. The NAACP, we got involved because as we were battling with the injustice of the system nationwide, and of course we're talking about Ferguson, Staten Island, and all of the towns throughout our country, it hit home here because even after the Department of Justice investigation finding that SPD doesn't know how to police Black communities and Latino communities, even after one of their very own police officers under the Washington State Patrol performed an investigation, looked high and low and at every single police policy, and came back and said that the officer was at fault, that at this case, she was assaulted doing nothing wrong on her part. Even after we won that investigation, which is rare for Seattle because we all know how often we lose. The NAACP, we turned to Dan Satterberg and we told him, right here, you have an opportunity to correct what's wrong. Right here, with the world watching Seattle, you have the opportunity to step up, take a stand, and make certain that you hold officers accountable for any time they act outside of the law. Do nothing, Dan, he stands idle again because he looked at us. He looked at this young girl and he said, I can't do nothing. Now, you and I know the repercussions of that because right now as we speak, there's Bruce Harrell and other city council members who are turning around and saying body cams are going to be the solution. Dash cams when they operate are going to be the key to holding officers accountable. But you and I know in this fight that until we have a prosecutor who is willing to stand up and do his job to actually prosecute the officers, no dash cam, no video, no investigation is going to be able to do the work that he's supposed to do. That's making certain that no officer that steps foot in our streets, that steps foot in our neighborhoods, that comes face to face with any of our brothers, our daughters, our aunts, our mothers, make certain that they know that they are not above the law. Dan Satterberg, I want you to personally understand this, and let me be very clear. The NAACP will look at you and make certain that every single day you go to work that you hate your job until you step up and you do the right thing and you learn how to prosecute the officers. Shalise Seacrest, NAACP, thank you all.
I really want to make sure one thing that comes out of this meeting is that we do everything we can to demand accountability for Coca, the woman that was knocked in the eye. Two of her bones were broken by this officer, Adley Shepherd. So maybe later, Shalise, you could help us figure out what people can do to demand justice in addition to the protests that we're continuing. So thank you so much for that. Our next two speakers here are Devan and Celia Berk. They're from two organizations, Youth Undoing Institutional Racism and also Ending the Prison Industrial Complex. Give it up for Devan and Celia.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So, like I was wonderfully introduced, my name is Devan and this is Celia, and we're both part of Youth Undoing Institutional Racism and Ending the Prison Industrial Complex. And, rep. And the main reason why we were asked to speak tonight is because both of these organizations are working here in Seattle, working very hard to stop the new youth jail that is being built on 12th and Alder. Oh yeah, look, we already got some support. That's really, because usually when I say that, people are like, what are you talking about? People usually don't know about it. And I think that one of the main reasons why this is important, like many other people have said tonight, is because this is a system, and this system is pumping our kids into this youth jail, and the fact that they are expanding it right now is just showing us in like true live colors that this system isn't being stopped, and that's why we've been asked to speak tonight. You wanna? Yeah.
And so as a young white person, I wanted to speak to y'all too, particularly because of the demographics in this city, and when we're talking about the youth jail, we know that it's not mostly white youth that are going into the jail. And the reason, part of the reason for that is because of these diversion programs that King County loves to brag about that are working for mostly white youth. But it's not working for youth of color in the same way. And we know why that is, because like Devan said, that's the system that's supposed to work that way. And especially when it comes to white organizing, like the purpose for this event, organizing a mass movement, know that in whiteness, a lot of the pieces of white culture that perpetuate this system exist through white people. And not only white people, but when it comes to white organizing too, those aspects of white culture play out. And sometimes, a lot of times it harms the movement more than it helps. So if white people are going to be involved in this movement, which they do need to, especially looking at the demographics in this city, there's a specific role that needs to be played, or there's a specific understanding that needs to be reached before we get there, especially when racism and police brutality and a police mentality are a very sort of instinctual piece that white people, not just white people, but white people particularly are taught growing up in this society.
Yes. I also want to make the point that this is a multi-generational movement, but at the same time, we need to listen to the youth who are being directly affected by the system. Because, they're the ones going to the jails, they're the ones being shot, they're the ones being killed and murdered and raped. And so I think that it is very important for us to have panels like these, to have the youth speak. I think it's really important for everyone to listen to what the youth have to say, because, like I said, the youth are the ones being directly affected by this system. And in terms of, no, I'm gonna stop there. I could talk forever about this. I was gonna go in, but no, I think I was gonna jump around. I think y'all got that. Yeah.
How can we support you?
Oh, talk to me. Yeah, we meet every Thursday at where is it? Beacon and Graham, Bethany LLC, every other week. We could talk.
Action Network building.
6:30. Well, YYR starts at 4:30, and then after Epic ends, Epic starts at 6. 6 to 8, 4:30 to 6. So if you come to YYR, you could stay until we can talk. It's a lot. It's okay.
A couple hours.
Yeah. So YYR starts at 4:30 and ends at 6. Ending the Prison Industrial Complex starts at 6 and ends at 8. But we have general meetings every other week, so Epic doesn't happen every week.
Epic's tomorrow.
Epic's tomorrow? Epic's tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. So,
yeah. There's also the Tyree Scott Freedom School, which YUIR does every winter and summer. And Freedom School will be happening in December 29th and 30th this month. So if there are any young people in the room who are interested, ages
15 to 21. Freedom School, what Freedom School basically does, and this year especially, we're going to be focusing on police brutality in Ferguson. We teach people about racism and the system of racism. We teach them why people are poor, that sort of everything. We sort of teach younger folks so they can start having this undoing institutional racism mindset. And I think that's really important. We're talking about education. It's important for our youth to understand that when they're sitting in Seattle Public Schools and they're listening to a teacher speak about something that doesn't directly connect to what they have known all their lives, there's a lot of disconnections between education and policy, that these students understand that what this teacher is saying to you might not necessarily be true, it might not necessarily be beneficial to their overall education. So that's what Freedom School does.
Yeah. And it gives young people the tools also to speak to people in their families and in their communities about all of this. I guess especially when it comes to building this mass movement, it's important to know that police brutality is not the only issue, and it's not, I think looking at it as an issue, it is the movement, you know, it is the movement, and when you're talking to someone who thinks environmentalism is the movement, it's connected, they're not separate. So Freedom School also gives you the ability to have those conversations.
European descent.
And then for the white folks, European descent is a group, DISSENT, which is a branch of the People's Institute for Survival and Beyond and the People's Institute Northwest. So it's a group of white people that are organizing to undo racism through these anti-racist principles, led by groups of color and people of color, in accountable relationships with people of color, focusing on internalized superiority and ways that we need to organize in white communities. Recently, European Descent wrote a letter that's out on the, it's called Dear White People, sort of, which is like this sort of hashtag recently. So we're doing work out there. If anyone is interested, please contact.
Yeah, the movement is strong.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
You want to introduce me?
Yeah, I'll introduce you. You want to introduce you? Or you want to
We're
introduce
arguing
yourself?
on who gets to introduce me tonight.
You want me to introduce you?
Well, I'm an expert on, so I
You go ahead.
can
You
take
go
it.
ahead.
Okay. Let me get myself ready. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome. Greetings. Peace to all. I am so thrilled to look around this room and think about what this.
Just one second.
Okay.
Is there any way people can scoot in to let these people in the hallway have more space?
Oh my goodness,
Can you
we're
guys
filling up.
Scoot in. There's 2 chairs up front.
Do a little Rosa Parks. It's okay.
Brothers and sisters, let's look around the room and find our elders. Where are our elders that need a seat?
No, it's absolutely no worries. That's how we do it, right? Got to take care of business. So again, welcome. My name is Julia Ismael. I'm one of the founding board members here at Africatown Center for Education and Innovation. And I'm not going to apologize for the room. And I'm not going to apologize because it's in rooms just like this, over decades and centuries and generations, that change has been made. We're talking about basements. We're talking about garages. So this is our space. And I'm going to tell you just a quick story about just today and this space. Ramy and I, we were able to come and look around and see what space on the property might be a good fit. We walked into this room and it was 42 degrees in here, 45 degrees in here. It's freezing. And we're thinking about, how are we going to warm this room up? Does it seem like a problem right now? No, right? So we got the space heaters. We called, and Ramy went all the way down and rented a space heater. Where's the space heater? It's back there. Yeah, you got lucky people back there. So we were able to warm this room, not just with those space heaters, but with the people in it. This is what the movement is about. This is about not just making heat in this space, but taking what we have from this room to the outside and into the future. This is the day that your children will be talking about. This is the day that will be photographed in textbooks for generations to come, inshallah, God willing. We're making history right here, right now. And part of the reason why I'm so absolutely 100% thrilled to have you all in our space today is because we get to introduce ourselves. Can I just get a quick stand up of people who have been at Africatown Center before, or hands up? All right, love it. This is your home. And if I could just give a quick shout out to all those who just stood up for Africatown Center. It's your home. You feel that? That's right. You feel that? You feel it when you walk in through those doors, because this is a space that belongs to the people. And this space is not just about whatever it is that is the flavor of the day. We are solely focused, laser focused on what education means in this prison to pipeline system. So I was talking to a dear friend of mine, Dr. Deborah Sullivan. Anybody know Deborah Sullivan? Okay. Brilliant sister, right? She was talking to me yesterday on the phone and she said, Julia, now it's not about we all have to be on the same page, right? So there was a sister, right? You said an ecology movement. It's all the same. She said, you don't have to be on the same page, but you got to be in the same book. What? It blew my mind. She said this to me. So I'm thinking, like, how are we going to talk about police brutality? How are we going to talk about in the same sentence what education means? But what are we really talking about? We're talking about valuing human life. We're talking about Black Lives Matter in all aspects of that life cycle. So we're talking about decriminalizing our culture. We're talking about, when we say the word gang, we don't automatically think criminal. We think a self-organized social structure with the economic system that leads to self-efficacy and sustainability. We're talking about our language being fully accepted and embraced as a part of this American fabric. We're talking about economic viability. We're talking about being represented in those school books. Like, I hope that you all take into deep consideration, either going through the People's Institute of Seattle or the Youth Undoing Institutional Racism. These are all amazing tools that we can use to sharpen this part. But why we're here tonight is this part. So we need both. And right here at Africatown Center in Education, we're not just talking about it. We do it. As we're sitting here right now, parents are coming to pick up their children who have been studying their native African language so that they can communicate with their parents. We are holding classes on how to encourage young people to be entrepreneurs. What kind of app or what kind of code can you create to create your own destiny? We're talking about sewing classes that teach math. We're talking about history classes that we are fully represented. We're talking about children who smile and beam, and on the first day they say, oh, I hate math. And on the second day they say, I'm a mathematician. I just came from a girl, she looked up at me and she said, Julia, no, they call me Madam Julia. They think it's what, he did this. They call me Madam Julia, I love it. They say, Madam Julia, I'm just so glad to be here because I don't feel like I'm being judged. This is a 7-year-old girl telling me that she is glad to be here because she doesn't feel judged. And you imagine what that environment does to her ability to learn? They're like sponges. And there are educators in this room who have been in classes. There are parents who have sent their children to our classes in this very room who can speak exactly the same story. Different details, same story. We see children blossom and bloom. But I'm going to say that's just one page of the book. That's one page. Maybe, okay, maybe it's a chapter because it's kind of complicated, right? This is whole education. But I'm saying that when we see your faces here, when our children see you come out and support them in a place that they love and admire, we now belong to them and they belong to us. So it's not just a matter of putting a little police camera on somebody, because I absolutely agree with Ms. Seacrest. That's not going to do the job for them. They could turn it off and it's you know, free reign. But let's think about creativity. This is the Africatown Center for Education and Innovation. We're not talking about just grabbing a sign and going protesting down the street, because I'm going to tell you something. I've seen the city of Seattle's police department budget, and they get paid. Okay? They get paid overtime. They get paid extra time. They get paid in all kinds of ways. They benefit directly from us protesting against police brutality. So if you think that is the end goal, it's good. It's a piece of the puzzle. But it's not the whole thing. Let's talk about other solutions. Let's talk about unpaid leave while they're under investigation. How many people in this room have heard police, some mention of a police officer saying that it's a paid vacation when they shoot a black man in the street? How much money did that man get for shooting Michael Brown in the street? The man is a millionaire. So I'm saying, I don't care if they like me or not. I don't care if they respect me or not. All I need to know is that once I have my rightful place in this society, it doesn't matter what they think of me. You see what I'm saying? My success does not depend on the approval of white folks. That's just it. And as soon as we begin to get over that, as soon as we stop incentivizing violence against my community, it's going to continue. So let's talk about some solutions tonight. Let's be innovative tonight. Let's think outside that box tonight. And remember those faces right across the parking lot. That's who we're here for. And with that, welcome to Africatown. Julia, Ismael, enjoy the evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. Our next speaker he's a medical doctor who deals with victims of community violence. Please join me in welcoming, he's also a Socialist Alternative member. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Will Washington.
Big shout out to Africatown for putting this on, SA for helping to host this. I appreciate being here. It's an honor and a privilege to support the people, my people. In terms of the bigger struggle, I'm for African liberation, and that to me is the bigger goal. And we all know that there's a whole lot to fight here. I mean, we're going to remain a commodity so long as this empire exists, and I'm sure of that. But in terms of what we're here for today, how do we rid ourselves of this particular problem of police brutality, which has to stop today? We got to start discussing some real solutions. And so I think it's very clear to us in terms of how I'm from the South, and I'm born and raised Seattle, and I know what it feels like. I don't know what it feels like to be in Palestine, but I think we have a similar understanding of what it feels like to be occupied, what it feels like to almost be a colonial people inside of America and treated that way. And the statistics support this. And I think in terms of finding the solution to this particular problem, we need to talk about how we as black people can gain power and control and hold the people who are supposed to be policing our community fully accountable for their behavior. And that is to have black community control of the police department. And not, when I say black community control, I mean power for us. We need to have full representation. When I say power, we need to be able to hire, fire. We need to be able to discipline. We need to understand where the money's going. And really develop a program that has teeth, okay? And this is going to sound very radical to some. And they're going to say, you know, we can't do this. Oh my gosh, you can't control the police department. Well, if we have to have police, and so long as this empire exists, I think it's pretty simple that we do have to have police when there's a gap between those that have and those that have not that's out of control. And racism's out of control. And we don't have any psychiatric therapy for these thugs. I think we do need to